Today I'm going to get straight into our project, which is a really pretty autumn or fall treescape. It's slightly abstract in that it's not taken from any reference photos, it's actually made up. So all I'm doing now is using a medium-sized flat brush and taking a line of water across the page. And now I'm just dropping in some very neutral shade watercolour into the area. Using a nice wide brush, flat brush again, with plenty of water, I'm just pulling it along so that we're basically forming bridges between the different planes on the paper and then bringing it sweeping down. You'll see as the water hits the paint, hits the water, it will flow. And we're going to drop a little bit of dark green into that as well and just start to pull that again with the smaller flat brush, pulling it down, creating planes, creating areas of landscape that we're actually going to use. And here I'm just dotting in a few little bits above the horizon line. Sweep her down with the water. And now still using the flat brush, I'm just going to put some water here and then paint up as a bridge between the dry area and then using the side of the brush again to add more water. I know it sounds a little bit strange using a flat brush, but it has a good reason which I will explain to you shortly. So again, using the flat, but when you use a flat brush, you can leave a lot of white areas in between, and for foliage that adds to extra interest. It stops it being all blanket. So we're just putting on the colour very, very loosely with this flat brush. I want a nice selection of autumn colours. So I'm using some gold, some oranges, a little bit of pink, whatever your preferred shades, depends where you live really, as to what your leaves are at this time of year. And now I'm just softening those edges with plenty of water, and this time with the round brush. And again, just randomly pulling it out to soften those edges. This is going to be the sort of first layer, which will dry paler, and then we will actually build the colour over the top of these layers. So spreading it out, plenty of water, dotting in little bits of colour. I'm introducing a nice orangey shade here, and I'm pulling it down as well while it's wet beneath the horizon line, so we're getting that little bit of reflection going. Dropping in more colour. Again, it will pale as it dries, so we're just starting to add a semi-abstract image of foliage here. This is all still wet in wet, so we're able to blend it, move it, add little areas of colour. We can use the same colour in different areas and still pulling that colour down. A little bit of that green reflection, but I'm softening it all just with clean water. And this is the process for the next few moments of building that foliage. So again, flat brush, pull it out. Looks like it's all gone into lines, but it's very useful. And don't forget, you can use the side-on flat of the brush to create the trunks. This one I want to have a little bit more of a sort of spruce feel to it, a conifer type. So the flat brush is great for giving those branches, those spiky branches that aren't necessarily rounded. This shape may change as we build on this painting, but that's okay. We can go with the flow, as it were. This isn't a place that we need to sort of demonstrate as belonging to any particular area. It's just a study in autumn foliage and reflection. So every time I add a little colour to the top, I try and bring it down to the base as well, and just soften, sweep out with the flat brush. The beauty about watercolour is, of course, because it dries a little paler, you can afford to add a little bit more colour, and then we can build on that as the time goes on. So just the start of some trunks that come down into those reflections. Again, more adding in, but leaving gaps, leaving those little bits of white area. Got a nice tall poplar type tree there. And soften your reflection with the side to side motion of your flat brush. Again, adding colour. The flat brush automatically makes it look like ripples because it's very fine lines. If you move it horizontally, it automatically looks like ripples. That dark area there we may have to lighten a little bit, I think. I'll take some of that paint out with my fine liner brush and then start adding little bits of trunk, little bits that you can just see through the foliage. Don't have to put in every branch, just as much as you feel you would like, to give it a little bit of context of the tree shape. Fine liners are great for this sort of work because you can add in twigs, you can add in little bits in the under the trees, sort of little bushes, little grasses. There we go, we'll lift that dark out because it will puddle slightly. And there's our conifer coming into shape there. Little twigs going in. Let's have a little dead looking tree there because not all of them survive. And we end up with sometimes stumps that are interesting. I'm going to add in a nice bold orange colour here at the end to balance the orange at the other end. Again, it's about balance. It's about making sure that everything ties together and you're not left with one area that's got lots of colour and then another end of the painting which is a bit too pale. Washing out. Doesn't matter if it merges in with the trees next to it. It just adds that interest, those layers. Again, going in with ever thicker mixes of the watercolour paints because the foregrounds are always darker and we've got our lovely pale washes for the background trees. And don't forget you can lift out as well, wet a brush, take out the paint, wipe it on a tissue and you can actually remove colour if it's gone in a little bit heavy. That's the beauty of watercolour. So now it's just a question of keeping on adding in areas that we want more colour, adding in little twiglets, little branches, little bits of trunk, trying to bring that down into the reflected area as well, keeping it all nicely in balance. Again, softening. We could soften as much as we want. We can add more detail in later. And quite often this makes a very good basis for a wash and line, sort of line and wash. You could do the wash first and then go in with pens, markers, add in the different details that you want later on. Just introduce that little bit of pink into there now. I know some trees have a beautiful pinkish shade. So again, dropping more in, a little bit of pink mixed with the orange makes beautiful autumn colours. I'm actually using the side of an old gift card just to scrape some little branches in as well. You can still see we've got those lovely areas of just blank page that we can see through those trees. It gives them a sense of reality and we need a little bit of that pink pulled down into the reflections there. We can work on the reflections a little bit later. For now, I just want to get the tree lines in, the colours and the depth in that I want. Adding in some more detail. I think you probably get the general idea now. It's just adding as you go along. If you work it wet into wet, it's fine. You can soften things. You can wait for some areas to dry if you prefer. You'll find that you want more detail with perhaps little branches and grasses, and that's fine. I just love that pink, it's really beautiful. And now at the foreground I'm just pulling a little bit of clean water across, just sweeping it in, again those lines, and then dropping in a little bit of colour to correspond with the tree above it. Because this is watercolour, if there's bits later on that you see that you think were too heavy, you can go in, wet it and lift it. It's so much easier in some ways than using acrylics or even a staining watercolour like Brusho or some of the inks which actually do stain even though they're watercolour. So we have the options of removing and adding as we go along. I can already see a couple of areas myself that I'm actually going to work on a little later and lift out and just tweak slightly as we go along. Again, the flat brush gives that lovely sideways motion and the effect of the ripples on the water. I don't know whether this is water, it's just how the reflection's turning out. It seems suitable. You will notice that I haven't actually put in a sky here. Those of us who live in the Great British Isles tend to find that for us, autumn and fall, the skies are quite often just grey, what I would call no weather days. They don't do anything, there's no sun, there's no particular contrast in shade, so I've left it white, but you can, if you prefer, put a blue wash or a grey wash behind, it's absolutely fine. Remember, this is just an abstract idea. Putting in with the fine liner, again, a few little sort of ripples, a few starts of little grasses, a little bit more colour near the horizon, and just adding those little details which will make the painting come alive because you've got different planes within it. It is not just the trees that you can see in the distance. We're going to have little tufts of grass at the front, little bits of twigs here and there, little bits of shrubbery, whatever you feel you would like to add in. This is just a suggestion. This is just something just to give you an idea of what you can do with this. I like to use the fine liner to draw sort of traces where I think little bits of land might come to, whether this is the side of your lake or pond, whatever, but you can add in as much detail as you want. It's almost like a marshy area if you prefer. Adding those little bits of planes give interest, and they take the viewer's eye to the horizon, and also from the horizon, which sort of hits you in the face when you look at the painting and brings the eye forward as well. So you've got that interest going on every level, not just the trees with their bright colours. You can introduce some more bright colours as well in the foreground, and don't forget, colours appear darker in the foreground than they do in the distance, so you can go quite heavy if you wish with the foreground colours. It's entirely up to you. This is just to give you that little bit of technique. Nice little bit of gold in there for that beautiful tree we've got at the end. So you can see now that the reflections are starting to come into being. A little bit more heavy colour. That's that lovely bluish green for the shape of our rather nice conifer there. And whilst we do have a point to the top of the tree, in the reflection it's not so clear, but it is there. Just adding in a few more twigs into that wet area and soft land. Remember, it's sometimes easy to do it in one place on your painting and forget that you need to tie that in with the rest of the horizontal as well. And you can put in darker colours as well underneath where those grasses form. Nice little bits of orange grass. You'll know from your own landscape what tends to dominate in fall, in autumn, and you can add in as you wish. Now I'm just going to add in, with a larger flat brush, some more sort of green ripples, softening areas. And here we have the final picture. I hope you will have enjoyed that. Please don't forget to follow me by subscribing, and I'll see you next time.